Losing a sibling relationship because of a parent's manipulation is one of the least talked about but most painful forms of emotional abuse. Hi, I'm Michele Paradise and welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel, where I bring evidence-based information and my own personal lived experiences to help you navigate the most important relationship in your life, which is the one with yourself. So let's unpack this topic. When we talk about narcissistic families, most of the focus is on the parent-child relationship. But what often gets overlooked is how the parent deliberately sabotages sibling bonds, because a united set of children threatens their control. And if you've lived this, you know the grief of losing a sibling who is still alive is such a unique kind of heartbreak. I think one of the greatest griefs is grieving people who are still alive. Of course, grieving the dead is very profound and very painful, but we know they're gone. When we're grieving somebody that we know is still alive, there is the potential and sometimes the want and the need to reconcile with them, and they're just not available to us. So how do parents create sibling rivalry? In narcissistic families, siblings aren't allowed to just be siblings. Instead, roles are assigned. One child may be the golden child. I've talked about this a lot in my other videos. They might be idealized and praised and given special treatment. Another becomes the scapegoat, blamed for the family's problems, criticized, and compared. Sometimes there's also the invisible child. They are ignored, overlooked, forgotten. These roles aren't accidental. They are carefully curated and designed by the parent to maintain control. Why? Because if siblings were united, they might see through the manipulation. They might challenge the parent, and for a narcissistic parent, that kind of unity is dangerous. I know we're talking about families of more than one child, but also one child, a single child, an only child, can be all three of those. From time to time, they can be the golden child, because I get asked this a lot, the scapegoat child, and the invisible child, depending on the needs and the moods of the narcissistic parent. What is this manufactured conflict? What looks like normal sibling conflict is often manufactured. Parents compare children constantly. Why can't you be more like your brother? They do so well in school and you're such a loser. They might pass messages through one child to the other, turning them into messengers or spies. They may reward loyalty to themselves and punish loyalty to each other. This creates resentment, rivalry, and mistrust. Over time, the sibling bond fractures, not because you and your sibling don't care for each other, but because that bond was sabotaged at the root. And here's the real tragedy. You lose not just a sibling, but the potential for a lifelong ally, the one person who truly knew what it was like to grow up in your family. And I do think that this happened with my brother and I. My brother, I would say, was the golden child, and I, for quite a long time, was the scapegoat child and left as soon as I could. And there's no blame here. I'm not blaming my brother or my parents. I think this was just the outcome of the dynamic of not feeling good enough. And when you don't feel good enough for long periods of time, usually you get out, even if you don't understand why you're getting out. And that's certainly what I did. And, you know, this caused a lot of friction between my brother and I, because I felt, and this is sometimes how it shows up, I felt that he was getting preferential treatment, or he was getting forgiven for things that I couldn't even do. So for me, that's what it looked like. And I'd like you to think about what it looked like for you and maybe drop some comments below. So losing a sibling to parental manipulation is kind of living grief, as I said earlier. They're still here, but the relationship is gone. Maybe they've taken on the parent's narrative. I see this a lot with my clients. They might take on the role of the parent, especially if the parent is deceased. I see that the other sibling takes on the energy of the parent and becomes maybe authoritative and didactic, which is not what the other sibling wants, because they've had it most of their life. And now maybe they've taken on the parent's narrative, as I've said earlier, and now see you as the problem. Maybe you've been cut off completely, or maybe contact exists, but it's shallow and filled with tension. This loss isn't always understood by others. People say things like, but they're still your sibling. Just reach out to them. You know, they're your blood. Blood is thicker than water. I don't necessarily agree with that. And what happens is people around us don't realize that what's been broken is far deeper than simple misunderstandings. It is emotional abuse, and it leaves deep, deep scars. So if this is your story, how do you heal? Well, the first thing, number one, is name the truth. Recognize that this was manipulation, not your failure as a sibling, and not your sibling's failure as a sibling. Grieve the loss. It's okay to mourn what you didn't get. The sibling bond you deserved is not your fault, and you need to grieve that. Number three, release the role. You don't have to stay the scapegoat or the golden child or the invisible child anymore. Those were roles given to you. They're not your identity. Number four, build a chosen family. Surround yourself with people who see you, support you, and love you without conditions. So you've got your biological family, which is where you were given a role. I call the chosen family your logical family because you get to choose them. They are logical to you. So healing doesn't mean reconciling with a sibling who remains stuck in the parent's narrative. Healing means reclaiming your own story and allowing yourself to build healthy connections elsewhere. So if this is your experience, know this. The loss was never your fault. The manipulation was bigger than you. And even though you may have lost a sibling, you can still create the family you deserve in people who truly see you and listen to you and accept you just the way you are. So please follow me for more truths about narcissistic families and how to break free from their impact. Please hit the subscribe button, and if you're a subscriber, hit the notification button so you don't miss any of my videos. Thank you so much for listening today, and I look forward to seeing you in future videos.